25 years ago, I set foot in this prison. Today, I return with a different purpose, reflecting on that journey that begun within these walls. East Moline Correctional Center, once known as Sweet Moline, carried a reputation of comfort, and from street clothes to gold chains and even pizza, it was a place that held a sweetness despite its harsh reality of being prison. As the young JC in 1998, I spent countless hours there playing handball with friends like Omar from Wrong Strong Chicago podcast, Loco, a Harrison Gent, Bita, an Ambro, and Menace, another Ambro. The handball court was life, I guess. There was a bench right behind it, and it served as a haven where we shared our stories, our dreams, our war stories. It was like a temporary escape, a brief, fresh air, I guess, from all the struggles outside those walls. Yet upon my release, I returned to the same patterns, the same temptations. This time, however, something was different. Within the years spent in drug school, I emerged with a new connections and opportunities, and ready to just navigate the streets with a new profound determination. Now I knew what to do and what not to do, and I guess now armed with this knowledge and resources that I thought I had in my head, I delved right into the world of hustlers again, street settlers, kingpins. You know, my contact list was different this time, so I thought stuff would be different this time. Yesterday just marked a pivot point and just a moment where I was able to return to East Moline alongside Omar. You know, one of my friends that I spent hours on that handball court with. And I got to step back into a familiar ground after a quarter century where we're no longer young men filled with, you know, big spirits and uncertainty. Instead, we return with a sense of purpose, a desire to bring hope and resilience to those who are walking that same path that we once did. As we spoke to the inmates yesterday, sharing our stories and offering our words of encouragement, it was a reminder of how far we've come together. I mean, me and Omar, and the journey that still lies ahead of us. A lot of work to be done. We have new work at East Moline that needs to be done. It was a humbling experience, I'm not gonna lie, and standing at the handball court once again, this time not as inmates but as messengers of hope, I was able to talk to that little JC, and I was able to tell him that everything was okay, that he didn't have to worry no more. You know, when I reached East Moline, I had already been through the ringer and back. I had already been to Mexico. I had already been to a couple of state joints. I had already been to the county. I had already been to the county in El Paso, Annex. I mean, I had even been to the gang program. And by the time I got to East Moline, it was like a break that I needed. You know, they called it Sweet Moline for a reason. You know, a lot of the inmates, a lot of the people there that were doing time had money, you know, had ways of taking care of themselves, and a lot of people lived it up. New shoes, you know, street clothes, gold chains. You know, you were able to buy pizza off a commissary. It was a sweet place. It was a sweet place, and it was a break that I needed after going through everything that I had done, man. Because you know, when I got to Chicago from El Paso, I went and I turned myself in right away. Like I didn't go on the run. I didn't wait for a little bit of time to, you know, dive into things again and stuff like that. No, I went and I turned myself in, and that's the only reason why the judge recommended the gang program, and she let me see my kid. She let me sit in her quarters. They cuffed me to the chair, and they let me spend a little bit of time with my kid, my very first kid. Believe it or not, that little kid JC was already making babies, you know. I remember that moment like yesterday because I was crying and holding her, and I wanted to be a father. I just didn't know how. You know, my whole life it's been one of the biggest things that I've struggled with, my kids. So I get to say bye, and you know, I get sent off. I end up in East Moline, and as soon as I got into receiving, there was a land folk sir from the north side. I forgot what he was. I think he was a Wilo, but he let me know that there was a couple SDs on the yard, but that the yard was, you know, sweet. If I needed anything, to let him know. And then I walked in, and I met Omar. Omar. Back in the day, they used to call him Bunks or Bunk. It was like a video game back in the day of this character that broke stuff with his head. That was his nickname, and you know, we were laughing about it yesterday because I feel like his head has shrunk. You know, it's not as big as it used to be, and maybe it's because he's not playing handball no more. Oh man, you know, there was a lot of inside jokes between me and him yesterday. You know, because he was like a really sore loser on the handball court, and he would get really mad when he would lose, and he would want to keep on playing and playing and playing. You know, and I've never been good at handball. I'll play, but I could only defend myself so much. There's some guys that have like special hands, special hits, all kinds of stuff. You know, it's a fun game. But you know, it's where we used to go and sit and tell our stories and our hopes and our dreams. And, you know, it was moments like that I remember now where we sat with gang members from like all over Chicago, and we built relationships, we built bonds. You know, yeah, at the end of the day, if something was to kick off, we had to ride with our own. You know, it's code, it's street, I guess, but you know, we built some big bonds with other gang members, and that's what people don't realize, that like the prison system is the most like smart mailing system or kites or whatever. You could like, you meet people when you go in there. You come out with your contact list from, if you were just from 26th Street, then now you have a contact list from the north side, from the suburbs, from Rockford, from Bolingbrook. Now you have a bigger list, you know. And that was the thing that happened to me. I went in at such a young age that contact list started growing, and I actually started thinking that I was going to become a better criminal. That this time everything would be different, because this time, you know, I had street connects. This time I met people that did home invasions. This time I met people that were getaway drivers. This time I met people that, you know, they were like robberies. That's what they did. People that cooked, people that re-rocked. You pick up so much garbage throughout your stays in prison that you actually come out thinking that you're going to be a better criminal this time. So when I got to East Moline, I knew that I was getting out soon. You know, the feds had just turned me over to the state for my shooting charges, and the judge had recommended the gang program. The judge felt bad for me because of the time that I did in Mexico, and you know, she read all the paperwork of stuff that happened to me over there, and just everything was on file. And she was a little torn apart, because she was like, this kid just came back from Mexican prisons, and now you want him to do this time. So she was trying to run it concurrent, and something happened where I had to do like a check-in, I guess. I had to go get a number. You know, it's just like they tag you. So I end up in East Moline, and I meet Omar, and you know, he doesn't remember too much stuff. I don't know why, but you know, he gave me a shampoo, a soap, and he was always very like, hey, you need anything? I'm gonna go to the store. I got you. I didn't really have much because I was kind of lost in the system right there. Nobody knew where I was at. I had been moved around so many times that people lost track where I was at, and yeah, I was pretty much lost in the system. Lost, and I'll get to that part right now so I can explain it more. But he was a good friend, man. And after everything that I had been through in Mexico, because people don't realize, when you live with fear every day, you don't know if you're gonna live or die. It does something to you. It does something to you, and being like that for years or whatever you want, however you want to put it, even a week is bad. It's bad for your mental health. It's bad for a lot of things, and I have to believe that that's why it created a lot of mental health issues in my head. All the fear of not knowing, the uncertainty if I was going to live or die, if I was going to make it back to the U.S., what was going to happen once I made it to the U.S., that shooting case, that gun case, this, that, like, it was like, man. And think about it, like, this is a 19-year-old kid that really didn't even have a childhood, really didn't experience life. So he had no emotional maturity, no emotional experience. Like, I mean, nothing. My first languages were sex, violence. And that's how pretty much I grew up thinking that that's what the answer was for everything. So when I got to East Moline and Sweet Moline, and I got to experience a little bit of care from a guy from my organization, other guys from other gangs, local from the Harrison Gents, if anybody knows who that is that's listening, tell him I said what's up, that I still remember him to this day. I still remember his tattoo on his back, how he had his hair pushed back. I mean, he's probably in his 60s to tell you the truth. But his name was Loco. He was a Harrison Gent from the north side, and he was on the handball court with us all the time too. It was a break that I needed mentally, man, from the violence, from just everything, from being in one prison, another. Like, I don't think people realize what that did to me mentally. And some might say, well, you did it to yourself. I don't think I did it to myself. I think it was a chain of events that led me to thinking that those decisions that I made were right. One day out of nowhere, Omar just disappears. Story of my life. Everybody abandons me. So he gets taken away. I figure he's gone or released, didn't say bye, nothing, just disappears, And I start just, staying to myself. I would come in, out, play handball, and just, stick to myself. And one day I was on the yard, and I see two black SUVs pull up to the front gate. And it's funny because, like, I almost had a feeling that they were there for me. And when the feds got out of the truck and came and got me, they cuffed me on the yard and took me. They lost me in the system. The federal government thought that I had committed a new crime and I was there on new charges, when they were the ones that turned me over to the state. I mean, they didn't turn me over, but the paperwork, like, I turned myself in, but that's what they told me to do. I guess they weren't expecting me to do it. So they thought I was there on new charges and stuff. So they arrest me, take me in the truck. They drive me all the way to downtown. I mean, they made me feel like I was like El Chapo or something. They made me look like it. And I'll get to that right now because, it's, I remember back to a lot of the decisions I made, a lot of the things that I done, and I can't help it but laugh because I was such a kid in such a, like, malicious way. Good intentions, not bad, but, I was always up to no good, like a child. So they cuff me, they take me. I end up in downtown at the federal building, and I sit there for a couple of days. Finally, I go in front of the judge, By this point, man, I'm so tired of going in front of judges. I'm so tired of being moved from prison to prison, jail to jail, room to room, cuffs to cuffs, from like it was shackles and shackles, man. Like I was so tired of it already. I get in front of the judge, and the judge starts reading my paperwork and everything. And he even asked me, he's like, "Did you pick up new charges?" I was like, "No, sir. You guys told me to turn myself in, and that's what I did." And this is like yesterday. They asked us a question. They asked us if I could see God's hand now in the past. And yeah, now that I think and I see everything, God was always there next to me. Like, he was always there. The judge looked at me and he was like, "Man, you've been through the ringer and back, like in such a short amount of time." He's like, "You're a kid." And I remember I told the judge, "I know, sir. I've been trying to be a man since I was 4 years old. It's what led me to being here today in front of you. I have to believe that God touched that man's heart that day, because he made sure that those federal agents took me back, and I was shortly released after that. It's when I came home the first time. And the first time and the other first." When you say it like that. But when I went back to the yard, everybody thought that I was the plug now, especially with the guys that were there from like the black gangs, because I always tell people, back in the day, the structure of the gangs, the way they made money, everything was very different to what it is now. A lot of the black gangs back in the day really weren't even gang banging. They were making money. They got into their little beefs here and there, but it was all about money. The Mexican gangs, they were just killing each other. So like it was bad for business, So I started making a lot of money with the black gangs when I got out. But when I got back to the yard, a lot of these, I knew a couple of the GDs that were there. There was a lot of people that, were there for drugs and then had money, and they were getting out soon. So, like, a lot of people started buying me pizzas. I started living it up. When I got back to East Moline, they actually put me in the workers' quarters in the back, very back of the prison, and I had my own little cubicle with my own little TV, and I had privacy. And all the orderlies that were there were super cool. Most of them were Latin folks from the north side. And, it was like a breath of fresh air, even if it was in prison, because I got to relax for a little bit before I ended up back on the streets. And that's a whole other ball game, a whole other story. We got so much to talk about, guys. We have so much to go over. There's a story that I really want to talk about my friend. I had a really good friend in Mexico, in the Mexican prison, that always had my back, always watched me. Shout out to Ricardo, big dog. I love you, bro, and I would have never made it out of that place without you. So I believe that God used you in such a mighty way that you always had my back and always cared for me. So I want to share a couple of stories. When I went back to the island to pay that money, when I picked him up at the border, there's so much to tell and share. And some stories are gonna make you laugh, some stories are gonna make you cry, some stories are gonna be just plain dumb, but it's my life. And I wanna share it, and I wanna highlight it, because not to glorify it, but to show you the significance of the transformation that's happened in my life from this new heart that I got transplanted 2 years ago. The way I speak, the way I see life, it's totally different. I feel like I've matured in so many ways. And I'm able to share my story of hope and resilience, and just this journey that I've been on for that it's going to last for the rest of my life, because I have so much more healing to do. And my mission is, to go back and help as much as I can. We decided that we're going to be participating and helping the inmates at East Moline with our program. If they want to become personal trainers, we're going to use my USP Max program for the basics of life. Learning to be alone, taking care of yourself, forgiveness, aligning everything makes a difference. And that's what I was telling the guys. Like, it's about creating new habits and putting God first, because once you put God first and everything falls into line, you'll find your purpose. You'll find your calling. Yesterday I asked Omar, because I get a lot of like critique, I guess you could say, about how I am, how I talk, how I act. I am no Bible scholar. I don't memorize verses. I just try to live the way that God is teaching me to live, by reading scripture and following through with what I'm supposed to do every day. That's made the difference in my life. Do I trip and fall sometimes? Yeah, I do. I'll be the first one to admit it. I'm not afraid to be real. I'm not afraid to tell you that I got mad yesterday. I'm not afraid to tell you that, I slipped and cursed the other day. I want to keep it as real as it is, because God chose us for a reason. He knew we weren't going to get it right, but he also knew that he was going to give us a way out. And that's why it's important for me to go back and share this story. This is why we're doing what we're doing at Wrong to Strong. I believe that our purpose is to go back to the dark streets, to the jails, to the rehab centers, to the mental institutes, to those level 4 yards, just the dark of the dark. I believe that Wrong to Strong will help women and men raise up and just really see like the purpose that God has for them, because we need to show them what he did in our life. So we just need to walk the walk. Be you. Teachers creating other teachers, not teachers creating students. We could do this. It's already said and done. You just have to get aligned and get right next to me, and let's walk that yard with Jesus. I love sharing my story with you guys. Thank you for listening again. I love you guys. Thank you for the support, the messages, just everything. There's a lot happening. Like I said, a lot of doors are being open. A lot of prison doors are being open, and we're going to keep on sharing our mission, our cry of war, that God is first and Jesus is walking this every step with us. Every step of the walk, he's with us. My name is JC. I am Wrong to Strong. Hey, you already know what time it is. Because we're about to say Jesus.